Hi, I'm Khushbu Soni, the founder of The Mainstream. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Aadil Bandukhwala, who is the Vice President Customer Marketing at HackerRank. Aadil has 20 plus years of rich experience, led marketing for various brands such as Dell, LinkedIn, and now at HackerRank, he is been working at the organization's global marketing vision, driving demand, customer engagement, and brand at scale. Adil is also an author to a book titled Outbound Hiring. He's also a host for a podcast show, which is a very famous show called The Great Indian Marketing Show. And I've heard some of the podcasts that you've driven. They are phenomenal and a lot of insights from that. How does it feel to be on the other side today?
Thank you, Khushbu. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure interacting with you and the very cool team that you're building at the Mainstream.
Thank you.
It's fun to be on the other side. Thank you for having me.
Lovely. It has been a very inspiring journey. Adil, I've seen the work that you've been doing in this space. Started off as an entrepreneur, worked with various brands, doing various segments in marketing, and now leading global marketing at HackerRank. Tell us about your journey.
I think I've been a little bit of a mad hatter, if I may, because I started out by running my own recruiting firm. This is perhaps 2005 to 2011. And while I was doing that, I used to run it from my hometown, a small town called Belgaum. Discovered LinkedIn, Twitter, perhaps around 2006-ish. Maybe 2007. Very early realized that you'll have to find talent in unconventional spaces. And that actually happened by accident. And I'll go into this, I'll double click into this so that you get a sense of where I'm coming from. So one of my team members in Belgaum, we have a small office, 10 people.
Right.
I'd hire fresh graduates from college and turn them into recruiters. She started crying and she was weeping one day in office. And I just entered office. I was out for some reason. And I went to her and I'm like, hey, what's wrong? Did someone say something? Is something disturbing you? And she just flipped the laptop around. And she says, look at this bozo. I'm like, what is she trying to show me? And there was this profile of a guy. Her dad wanted her to marry. And she's like, I'm going around with someone and I like him and I don't want to marry this guy. Mm-hmm. I'm like, where's this coming from, right? You haven't told your folks? She's like, no, I haven't told my folks. So where's this coming from? It's like, no, my dad found him on a matrimonial website. And let's not name that website.
Yeah.
So suddenly a light bulb went off my head. Now, there was a large investment bank that I used to consult for, and they'd empanel me. And more often than not, the profiles that I'd submit to them, they would turn out duplicates back in the day because everybody had access to the same tools, like the job boards, right? LinkedIn was too early back in the day. There was barely anyone in the country. And suddenly it hit me, matrimonial websites. You can pretty much find everyone there and all their details, what they're making, where they work, and all their personal details. I was like, took the laptop, run a search. I was like, do you have the user ID and password of your dad's account? She's like, yeah, of course I do. Log in right now. Investment banker, equity derivative trader, the roles that we were hiring for. And there you found people by the truckloads. I was like, watch this. Let's try this. Pick up the phone, smile and dial. And you say, hey, I'm calling from so-and-so company on behalf of so-and-so company. I work with them as a partner. Someone very high up recommended your name. And would you be keen to join this particular company? I got your details as a reference. Most people will be like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? Because those were not the active job seekers in the market, they were passives.
Correct.
And suddenly we started converting. So these people started converting. And I was like, man, this is how talent discovery is done. You got to find talent in unconventional places, right? So that's when I realized the power of sourcing and the power of seeking talent where nobody will. And that's when I said, all right, this social network and social media could be the next big playground. And then there were these things called bar camps that used to happen, which were unconferences. So I started going as a speaker there and talking about social media recruiting. One thing led to the other. Brands started calling me for pitching. I went to Dell, I pitched them. And one of the folks, very kind-hearted at Dell, said that, Aadil, I think you're very good at what you do, but I don't think you should work with us as an agency. I'm like, what do you mean? We'd love to work with you, but I think we'd love to hire you. I'm like, what are you saying? It's like, we have 100 people in recruiting, but we're not using social media for recruiting. But you know what? I've got a job description which is tailor-made for you. Look at this. I need someone to lead the employer branding COE. And we're building a COE worldwide, where we're hiring someone in India, someone in China, someone in Poland, and someone in US. I think you're the perfect fit. to build the center of excellence in India, which means teach us how to hire from social media channels and build our employer brand. I thought about it. And I was like, but what happens to my business? He's like, shut it down. Like, come here and join us because you will not have the kind of budgets that we have access to.
Right.
And we can give you far more learnings.
Yeah.
And I went back and thought about it and I said, you know what? If it doesn't work, I can always go back to my startup.
Yeah.
Shut it down. Joined Dell. Was with them for 2 years. Started, collaborating with a lot of LinkedIn, Twitter, Meta folks, which was then Facebook.
Yes.
And LinkedIn, in a jiffy, after 2 years, said, "Yaar, why don't you come and join us?" And I'm like, "As what?" And they were like, "You should come and join us as something called recruitment product consultant." I'm like, "What does that mean?" It's part of the product consulting organization where you advise CHROs and heads of recruiting on how to build their talent brand and how to beef up their social recruiting play. So, in a nutshell, they were telling me, do what you're doing for Dell, but do it for LinkedIn customers. Now I'm like, wow, that's a fun opportunity. You get to meet so many people. And think about it, it's like a sales role, but without a quota.
Correct.
So I was like, man, it's a great way to learn enterprise sales. I was a bozo of a sales guy, by the way, when I was running my own firm. Because I did the classical mistake entrepreneurs make. I used to go after new customers and ignore existing customers. Khushbu, I was so profoundly dumb. I have never got and met a single customer in person. It was just, call them, a very tactical relationship. You have a mandate, give it to me. I was fresh out of college. I didn't know anything, right? And you don't have the education that you did back in the day on YouTube. And perhaps, I don't know, I was busy running the operational side of things as well as the sourcing side of things and then the biz dev as well. Anyways, I was like, this is going to teach me how to farm, right? And I had seen how LinkedIn builds a relationship. I was like, man, if I would have done this, my firm would have been at a different place today. So anyways, joined Dell. Very quickly, the recruitment product consulting organization morphed into what we call the customer success organization. Now, customer success is cool today. Everybody knows about it. I'm talking 2013. Nick Mehta had just come out with a book called Customer Success in 2012. The category was getting created. So one of the first few people who got into venture success in India, at least, was there with LinkedIn for close to 2.5, 3 years. And as by now, I think you know me, I tend to get bored pretty quickly of things. And very quickly realized that, okay, I've done my CS bit. I've figured out, how this works. Now I want to do impact at scale. So how do I, build like a crazy engine that attracts volumes of people? So I said, I want to learn marketing. So LinkedIn didn't have a role for marketing. And obviously, it was by then a large company, right? It was really, really massive. And they didn't have a role. So there were 2-3 people that approached me interestingly at the same time, but they were all different roles. There's this very cool guy, Vijay, who pinged me and said, "Hey, Aadil, I'd love to meet, we'll chat." I was hyperactive on Twitter back in the day. And pretty much everything that I would do would be there. And Vijay discovered me on Twitter. He heard some good stuff about me from some common connects. And he chased me down. And we went and met. We met for dinner as a casual conversation. He had just come up with this idea of something cool called Belong, which is an outbound recruiting platform. We met for dinner and he's like, we had a great conversation. Both of us hit it off really well. This is Aadil, yaar, you should come join us. Bola, yaar, but Vijay is what? He's like, nahin, jo bhi aapko theek lage. I'm like, what do you mean? No, I was like, karna kya hai? And he's like, why don't you do one thing? Why don't we go to office right now? I'll show you what we are doing. And I'm looking at my watch. We met for dinner at 8:30. 10:30, we've wrapped up this dinner. He's like, can you walk? I'm like, yeah, I can walk. So we walked. He made me walk 2 kilometers. By now, you can see that I'm pretty heavy and I'm panting. Okay. Anyways, we reached his office. Vijay showed me the product. I was very impressed. We met a couple of people there. They were there at midnight, which was insane. And then he said, so why don't you do one thing? Why don't you take a crack at what you want to do? Write a spec and tell me. And take your time to think about it. So we met again. I told him, hey, I think I want to be an evangelist. What does he mean? Like, I want to, like Guy Kawasaki did cool things for Apple back in the day. I'm a big fan of Guy Kawasaki. I like, this is what he did. This is what I'd like to do for you. He's like, I'm sold on it. Let's do it. He's like, but hey, I have no experience doing this. Like, I don't care about it. I believe in you. I like you. But Vijay being Vijay, he made me go through 10 rounds of interview back in the day, including someone who's looking to fund it. I'm like, okay. I was so invested in it that we did it, and eventually I ended up joining Belong. For the first 6 months, I looked at demand generation there, tried to build up the engine, very quickly then moved to customer marketing, very quickly then took over PR and tried to understand how to scale PR, did that. And then from there, took up the entire marketing piece, including everything, all things marketing.
Right.
And then what was happening is, very interestingly, 2015, when I was moving on from LinkedIn, my first preference was HackerRank. I'd reached out to the CEO, Vivek. We did a Skype call, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. There wasn't a role.
Right.
Fast forward 2019 December, Vivek is coming to India, and my friend Rakesh, he said, man, you should come and meet Vivek, who's our CEO, and give him a lay of the land in terms of what's happening from an APAC talent point of view, because he's running HackerRank, and I think it'll be a good interaction for you. So it just came because I had loved how Vivek had scaled HackerRank. It was the first startup from India to be funded by Y Combinator back in 2011. So I was like a huge fanboy from back in the day. I want to meet Vivek. So I came. We started talking. 1 hour went by and Vivek says, Aadil, man, you should come work for us. I'm like, okay, this is cool. What do you think I should do? And he's like, come do marketing for us for APAC. Help us build a brand, and you can chime in with bits of demand generation, and we'll figure this out.
Right.
So I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to introduce you to my CMO, who I've just hired a couple of months back.
Right.
Take it from there. Met her, really liked, got along really well. Met the CHRO. Luckily, she was in India a week later, and they brought me on. So then I joined them in February, and my role was director field marketing for the country for APAC. Build a plan in the first 15 days. In the next 15 days, COVID hits. So the entire plan goes out of the window. And then we're like, okay, what do we do? So then we had to build a plan that was remote first. So the first couple of years largely focused on demand gen in APAC, did some customer advocacy, started looking at our worldwide social media, and then did some micro events. Eventually, over the last couple of years, my role has evolved into the global head of customer marketing.
Right.
And then, other than social media, I also run our worldwide events.
Fantastic. What a journey. And I love the way, you've really, looked at what you want to do next and, spoken to people and, picked up roles, which is what you've been looking at. So love that. And also the fact, I'm very sure that, when in your journey, when you started off as an entrepreneur, worked with, various brands, some of the large brands, startups as well, like Belong, and now at HackerRank, what is the difference that you've seen working with, all kinds of organizations in terms of managing the whole marketing as a function?
It's a great question. I think there are two fundamental differences. In my view, when you're working for a startup that's really, really small, let's say it's early stage, the GTM motion is marketing led. But when you are working for a large brand or a large conglomerate, then oftentimes marketing aligns to the existing GTM motion.
Right.
Because it's been built over a period of time, and oftentimes it is product led.
Right.
Because that's how product led companies operate, and then they scale.
Right.
The other thing that I learned a lot at LinkedIn, again, huge fan of Jeff Wiener. He was the CEO back in the day. What a legendary guy.
Yeah.
Very people first. So somebody asked him, what's your yardstick for success when you hire people? What's your philosophy? He said there are only 3 things. Whoever I hire, they should be able to think big, get shit done, and know how to have fun.
Wow.
If you can do that, I think you're sorted. And that's when it hit me. Anything that you're trying to do, if it's not going to create massive impact, if it's not going to, if you're not going to have fun doing it, and you're not going to be able to execute it because the money hits the road, the rubber hits the road when you actually pull it off. Because a lot of us make plans, but can you walk the talk and get it done? So I think that is if you're able to do, then you're able to survive in any organization, not just survive, but actually thrive.
Absolutely. Wow, good pointers, right? I'm going to start looking at these 3 when I start. But very well summarized. And also tell us, Aadil, I think when you started off, you said, social media was just getting picked up, especially in the hiring space, etc. Then you joined Dell, managed your entire social media COE to now where we are today with social media. How have you seen it evolved in these years? Because for you, it's everything digital, right? You've done so much in that space.
I think great question. Back in the day, especially when we were at Dell, it was about being discovered on social media. I'm talking 2011.
Right.
People need to know who you are,
and
people need to know what is life like at Dell.
Right.
Why should I care about Dell? Why is Dell cool?
Right.
I think today that has moved from discoverability, social media has moved to belonging.
Right.
I'll give you a couple of cool examples, right? You're looking at you're working. It's, let's say, 12:30 in the afternoon. Pop comes a notification, and it's a one-word notification. It says lunch question mark. And that's from Zomato. How good are Zomato notifications?
I know.
Right?
So cool.
So cool. I mean, if you look at Netflix,
right.
the way they do their marketing.
I know.
I mean, with memes, the way they've embraced meme culture.
Yeah.
See, most brands, I feel, often try to have a social media brand that is GTM-led, meaning they're trying to sell their products.
Correct.
In a non-salesy way, but they're still trying to sell subtly.
Right.
Or they're trying to say, this is why you need to buy us.
Yeah.
This is why, if you buy us, you're going to be cool.
Right.
The other thing is, a lot of organizations also want to be potentially, they want to sort of show off, but they want to humble brag.
Yeah.
That also doesn't work because today, people see through it very clearly. Right. I think brands that have been super successful, in my opinion, today are edutaining. Like they're educating people, but they're also entertaining. Like, for example, when you're on Instagram, just as an example, I don't want an intellectual conversation. Like, I'm there, give me my 30 seconds of fun. No, let me have a smirk and go back to my job. I'll be there for like 5 minutes, 7 minutes. I'm in a break. I've just had 4 back-to-back meetings. Right? There are 5 questions running right here. I thought, okay, let's take a break. I mean, and there are different people who solve for it differently. Someone goes for a chai, someone goes for a cigarette or what have you. Yeah. I'm remote. I work from home. Yeah. So, in my mind, I'm like, okay, let me take a break. I go on Instagram. What's happening? All right, make me laugh.
True.
Right? True. A lot of people think that way, is what I've seen by virtue of interaction with people. Yeah. And then comes an ad which says, okay, the best LMS in the world. Right? Or like the best demand gen tool in the world. Yeah. It's not where I want to see it, right? But rather, if you can edutain me or entertain me, and I can see that this particular brand is entertaining me, then I want to follow them. Right. I want to see what they're up to, and I want to be part of their social feed because I like their content.
Correct.
And once you have me there, my affinity towards you slowly starts growing. But that is the long battle. It's not going to get you short-term results.
Right.
It's a function of how people define metrics org-wide and what is it that you really want to do. You want to capture hearts, you want to capture minds, do you want to capture metrics?
Right.
It can be 3 different things. Yeah. So I think that's where I'll stop and see what you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we've been, today, even for me, if I'm, in a mood of watching something on my phone after such a hectic day, I don't want to listen to something. If I want to listen to a podcast, if I want to do something else, I have other platforms. Yeah. If I'm coming to Instagram, it's all fun, right? I just want to see memes.
Yeah.
And memes it is, right? So very rightly put, and it is very interesting to see how tech brands could pick up something like this. Tell us, Aadil, I mean, from the customer advocacy standpoint and engagement standpoint, right? It is becoming very, very difficult today, right? Even to retain existing customers, etc. You've said, when you started, there was so much of focus on new acquisition versus existing customer engagement. In your journey, how have you kind of, seeing what are the touch points that are, really keeping customers connected to the brand?
Yeah, I think it's about running a playbook which has multiple experiments. And if something clicks, you double down and you leapfrog. Right. So I'll give you an example. I mean, I don't want to talk about the standard customer marketing playbook because I think it's out there for everyone to see. But I'll tell you a few stories that have stayed with me that have created relationships for life. Like, for example, when I was in my earlier firm, Belong, we used to run this very cool program called Outbound Hiring League. Mm-hmm. So we had access to our product data and how customers are using our product. We said, why don't we create a scorecard where every week we share, based on certain metrics, which company is leading and the names of our power users. And we'll give them first place, second place, third place. And whoever wins at the end of 3 months, they get a grand prize. And the prize will be given at a firm level, but also at an individual level. And we checked with every customer first whether they're okay to do this.
Yeah.
And everybody said yes because they wanted to incentivize their teams to use software.
Okay.
And one of the things that every organization wants to buy new software.
Yeah.
But everybody knows the challenge is in adoption of said software.
Absolutely.
So when we brought this to the table, everybody's like, हाँ करो, इसमें मजा. These are largely Indian customers. One of the prizes that we thought, which will be a cool prize, we were like, we'll drive a food truck into your campus. So think about that. And one of the companies in Whitefield One, we actually hired a food truck. We went into their campus and we were trying to land a meeting with their CEO for more than a year now because they were a customer for a couple of years.
Right.
But we were not getting access. You know, these bottlenecks happen. And business dev. He was passing by from one meeting or the other. He saw a food truck right in the center of his campus. He saw 20 people from his recruiting team having burgers, sipping on slushies, and having a good time. And I'm talking 2016. He saw deep fried Oreos being served with ice cream. He was just curious. And he came. Like, hey guys, what's happening? And suddenly we see this guy's there. I mean, we're like, it's so good to meet you, Mr. So-and-so. I'm so-and-so from Belong. This is my team. You all have been using us. These are the results. And we wanted to reward your team and showcase our appreciation, which is you're here. Like, you guys are Belong? Like, yeah. Love your software. I'm like, you know about us? They're like, yeah, these guys keep me updated. It's just that I've not had the chance to meet you. They're like, you'll have time after you do this thing. Can we meet?
Wow.
So think about without actively thinking about the intent of securing a meeting with a CHRO, purely through gamification and through customer appreciation and building loyalty. You go and you reward your users, which is your head of TA persona, which is the buyer persona, and then the user persona. And you're just having a good time and you're grateful. And you're taking pictures and the intent is just, tweet it out, put a blog out there, whatever. You landed a meeting the same day with the CHRO and then he became a strategic advisor to you. So I think if you can build unique hooks like that, that can just change the game for you. But the point is, don't be shy of kaise hoga, how will the customer perceive us, but how is this translating into ROI? What is the cost of a food truck today? Think about it, right? Back then I remember we spent 20,000 rupees. Wow. But if you say, for 20,000 rupees, I'll give you a CHRO intro, who's going to say no? And that to an engaged CHRO intro who himself came and said that, hey, I'd like to meet you. So I think there are like these fun hooks that we need to kind of build in.
Correct.
And that really, really translates. And then you can also do stuff at scale that we can talk about. At HackerRank, we started a property called HackerRank Innovator Awards 3 years back. We said, let's do an experiment in Bangalore. Okay, and we'll see kaise chalta hai. We have data about 2,000 customers work with HackerRank, some of the best in the world. They use HackerRank to hire top tech talent. We have access to their data. Why not uncover the best and share them with the world so that they can learn from them and also reward them for cool stuff that they're doing? So we said, let's try a small thing. If 200 people come, it'll be a win. Okay, that was the objective. In our hearts, we were like, 100 also come, it'll be a win. It's going to be our first event. We've never done an event in India. We said, all right, let's make this happen. Turns out, more than 200 people came. Smash hit. Customer said, do this every year. Next year we did 300. Next year we did 400. On strong, people are loving it. This has now become a large community play where people potentially look forward to this every year. Then we said, all right, this is working in APAC. How about scaling it in other markets? We said, okay, let's try this in London maybe. So we said, all right, but what can be the differentiation? So what if we have an AI host that would host it and there's not an in-person host? Okay, what does that mean? How do we do this? So we figured there is something called the Royal Society, which is a very cool venue. It used to be the office of Sir Isaac Newton back in the day. We are a very scientific company and technology first company. So why not bring back Sir Isaac Newton to life as an AI host and have him host it in his office in a modern day avatar? I said, let's try this. So we did that. Customers came, they loved it. We repeated this year. I just came back from that event. And this year we said, all right, we had Sir Isaac Newton then. How about bringing back the world's first developer to life? The world's first developer was Ada Lovelace. She was born in the 18th century. Can you imagine? She was the world's first programmer. When we brought her to life and she interacted with customers, customers were amazed.
Wow.
Like, this is awesome. So people hadn't interacted with AI, but this gave them a chance to kind of get that. And it's a small community where we're not talking largely about HackerRank, but we're talking about what can you learn from each other and who's really killing it.
Correct.
And then giving them an informal vibe to really interact with each other. Followed a similar playbook in the US where we said, let's do it in New York. New York, Albert Einstein. Let's bring Albert Einstein to life.
Wow.
And then a few more formulas for engagement. There's a very cool firm, in fact, in Bangalore that we use for our events, Pre-Magic. And Anand, if you're listening, this is for you and Pradeek, who help us a lot. So, when people come in, registration is a pain, if you're doing, think about if you're doing an event for, let's say, 50 people also, 500 people also. You have to check their name, find their badge, give it to them, and then you want to know what's happening behind the scenes, right? So how do you track attendance? First is count, and then how many people came. And there's too much paperwork. So Pre-Magic says this, we'll give you AI-based face check-in. What does that mean? So Khushbu comes in. I say, Khushbu, can I take a picture, please? And from a device, I click a picture, automatically Khushbu's name and label prints out.
Lovely.
Through face recognition. So you slap it onto the lanyard and the badge, and you give it. So what happens is, Khushbu's like, oh, this was cool way of registering. No, there's no queue. It's fast. You've got it, you're in. At the back end, I know Khushbu's coming.
Correct.
So we can track at the back end who's coming. We can track the count. We get a sense of how many customers, who's there, who's not there.
Very interesting.
So I think like these innovations also render that moment. The other thing that Pre-Magic does very well is, while the event is on itself, if you upload photos in real time, immediately customers will get a WhatsApp message or an email message saying that your photos are live, you can take a look.
Lovely.
Now, normally in events, one of the pains that I've felt is like the event organizer, after 3 or 4 days, sends you like 4,000 photographs. And then it's a pain of going through those 4,000 photographs to find yours and your friends. With Pre-Magic, what happens is, you get a unique link. You scan your face to that link. You only see pictures in which you are there. So everybody's getting a personalized message, a personalized link with only their pictures. So now you're not kind of violating anybody else's privacy.
Correct.
But you're also getting only your pictures.
Correct.
And it's happening in an organic way, which can, if you upload the pictures in the event, it'll go immediately. You want to send it a day later, it can go a day later. You want to send it post-event, you can say post-event. And then you can have social gamification built in, saying that, post this on LinkedIn, share this on Twitter, share this on Instagram. So I think if you pack in such fun stuff, it just raises the bar of experience for customers. I think that customer delight is what we need to aim for.
Lovely. Very nicely put. And I think some of the, right from, the story that you mentioned of the food truck to really doing the AI avatar of the scientists across the region, and bringing them to life, the AI to address the audience. Loved those innovative ideas. Also, would love to understand, I mean, you've been working across the globe now, right? The EMEA, North America, APAC as regions. Do you find any difficulties, or how do you kind of manage to make sure that, all your messaging, your programs are very culturally, in these regions are managed, and also the unification of the brand's vision and positioning is maintained? How do you do that?
I think it's a great question. Easier said than done. But I think you've got to apply the nuances of every local market, because what potentially worked in one market, you're not guaranteed it will work in the other market. So it's not a playbook you can copy and paste, because you're living in a world where, things are changing overnight. And therefore, if I'm doing something in APAC, I've always felt APAC is a very relationships first market.
True.
It is, people trust, it's a high trust society. People trust people quickly. And if you have that connect, and if you can have dosti of friendship purely because of a shared experience or a shared hobby or a shared belief system, I think things work uniquely.
Correct.
So you need to design your programs based on that. Europe is very privacy first. So you need to kind of take that aspect into mind and bake that into every aspect of your program.
Right.
Also, when you're in London, host a cream tea. Do it like the English do.
Correct.
Right? Have champagne a little later
Yeah.
and have some hors d'oeuvres.
Right.
And like, for example, I'll tell you one of the classic learnings we've had. Whenever we do an event, I've had this learning over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
In APAC, I've only done events for people who are potentially VPs, directors and above. So this is skewed to that demographic.
Correct.
Friday evenings are best.
True.
People love coming out on Friday
True.
evenings. For some reason, people will not come on Thursday evenings.
Yeah.
You know what? This does not apply to the US. You host something on a Friday evening, people don't come. Thursday evenings are best for US. You know why? Because people tend to switch off after 4 p.m. work-wise in the United States market, and they want to prioritize family.
Correct.
That is sacred time for family.
Right.
India mein, the culture is very different. Friday also till 6 p.m. you're working, there's no problem. And Friday evening is when your party mode begins.
Yeah.
But you don't mind mixing it with business. Because if I'm meeting, let's say, Khushbu or her team, and it's getting me a chance to meet my professional peers in the industry, which I've not met for a long time, or I might meet someone new, I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
But I have seen that does not work in the US, is what I've seen.
Right.
So I think these nuances are also important. And then also what's happening in that market is very important.
Correct.
What is the trend that is happening in the market, and what is the problem statement that is most current and topical in that market?
Right.
So and this I have seen, although the unified messaging, the unified problem statement might be same,
Right.
but when you break it down, they're very, very different.
Right.
Like, for example, in US, your assessments and your hiring has to be fair. It has to be compliant. You need to have IO psychologists on your team. In India, not many people talk about it.
Yeah.
There are some brands who talk about it and take it seriously. But if I launch that messaging only and only in this part of the world, and I look for scale, it probably is not going to do well.
Right.
So I think you need to kind of, like, assessment science is massive in the United States.
Okay.
It's getting here in India, but it's not the top priority.
True.
The top priority here still is time to hire.
Right.
Because we needed people as of yesterday. How can you solve my problem really, really quickly?
True.
So I think it's really a function of all these and localizing to every market.
Interesting. Wow, good conversation. I'm really enjoying this, and I have some more questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So, are there, organizations today, and like you said, market is pretty dynamic. I think business teams are also kind of pivoting their go-to-market strategy. The business leader in every organization is pivoting, and so are the C-suites, who's driving the business, who's driving marketing, are pivoting based on the market dynamics. How do you kind of make sure that the whole marketing organization is continuously in alignment to the business vision for the year, and also which kind of, there is a percentage which keeps, getting prioritized or changed every quarter over quarter. So how do you kind of make sure the marketing organization is very tightly aligned with the business sales team to make sure everything has solid outcomes as well?
This is very hard. You've hit the nail on the head. There are two problems here.
Yeah.
One is, if you see, in most organizations, 80 to 85% of organizations, sales and marketing don't like each other.
Yeah.
They're always at loggerheads,
I know.
right? Because marketing feels like, oh, maine macha diya, no? Like, they're smoking something else, right? And they're thinking, oh, they've killed it.
Yeah.
I say, like, what impact have you had on my pipeline? Yeah? And therefore, there is that fundamental disconnect. I think this alignment needs to happen at three levels. First is the CEO, the CRO, and the CMO need to be in the same room and come to terms with, this is what marketing will prioritize this quarter, this H1, and this year.
Sure.
Because look, everybody is running on limited budgets,
Yeah.
limited capacity, limited executable potential.
Yeah.
And if you want quality as the benchmark, something will have to be sacrificed somewhere. So it's a prioritization framework. What do you want to prioritize?
Right.
So a lot of times what happens is the CMO wants to run his or her own playbook.
Yeah.
The CRO is very clear that I have my numbers to meet.
Yeah.
The CEO wants both of them to do a bloody good job. And then they have their own perspective as well. I'm sure you get that as a CMO, Khushbu, as a CEO, Khushbu. So now, if they get into the same room and say that, okay, strategically, Marketing cannot support this part of the business because of these reasons. Mr. CRO or Miss CRO, are you okay with that? But we can double down here.
Yeah.
What would you value marketing for?
Right.
We are here to serve you.
Right.
Where do you think you need help?
Correct.
Instead of marketing defining a top-down agenda,
Yeah.
you got to sit down with the CRO and the CEO and say, where do you need help? What can we do for you?
Right.
And then based on that, build a plan. And once you have that, there is alignment at the top. But then at the same time, the CRO and the CMO take their minus ones, which is their VPs, their directors, get into a room and say, guys, this is the plan for the quarter, for the H1 and for the year. I know we want to do multiple things. And you also might want to do certain things.
Right.
This is what we have prioritized. And that prioritization can also happen by taking team members into confidence. Yeah. But once you take them into confidence, then it is decided at the top. Okay. And then it's cascaded down saying that we took your inputs.
Yeah.
We've discussed this. Yeah. And here's what we're going to do. I know a lot of you are passionate about a lot of other things. This is what the business needs.
Correct.
This is what we're going to prioritize.
Correct.
Once you prioritize that, and sales and marketing both understand what is expected of each other, then the questions don't come saying that you didn't help me for X.
Correct.
And this is my problem.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to support you because we agreed because my priorities are someone else. Yeah. And, both marketing and revenue are aligned. Another very important stakeholder that needs to come into the loop here is the CFO organization. Oftentimes, they're the ones who are going to say, okay, what is the ROI realization?
Yeah.
What is the CAC payback?
Yeah.
Right? Now, if they are involved in this discussion and they know what is the foundation for which we're building these programs, they have context. Right. Otherwise, without context, in marketing, they say content is king, but context is King Kong.
Correct.
The point is, if you don't have context, anybody can say, this was not an activity, it was worthwhile, because they don't have the context of why it was done.
Correct.
And not everything can come out in the form of numbers.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think the CFO organization also needs to be involved. So this is the first part to your question. The second part to your question is messaging consistency.
Yeah.
Very difficult to solve in my opinion. There has to be a central messaging pillar. So there are different orgs that have different dynamics I've seen. So normally I've seen like one type of org will have a central design organization, a central content organization, and then demand, customer marketing, product marketing, all other functions will piggyback on these and they'll take content and design from these and run.
Correct.
And then there's another kind of organization, which is the matrix organization, where content and design are not central pillars. Right. They are part of demand teams, they're part of customer marketing teams, they're part of growth teams, they're part of product marketing teams, right? Where they have liberty to solve for what's needed for said function. Right. Both these, what happens is, if you don't have a central messaging framework, saying that this is our Tier 1 messaging, this is our Tier 2 messaging. In Tier 3, you can localize and change. But Tier 1 and Tier 2, you got to Tier 1, 100% follow, Tier 2, 90% follow, Tier 3, 70% follow and localize. Right. So I think that definition has to be at the org level, and there have to be consequences for not following said messaging. Right. And I say consequences, just get people and say, it's out, you can't do anything about it. But going forward, do it this way. And if you can have a review process, and oftentimes people say, man, if you have a review process, that is not shipping, it's going to die. Yeah. Well, my philosophy is different. I'm like, have a review process. If the review stakeholders don't respond in 24 hours, you have authority to do it. If they don't respond within 24 hours, it's on them, it's not on you, because you gave it for review.
Right.
Time is money today. Right. So you got to get it out the door. Right. Sometimes you want to have shorter review cycles as well. But when you're working with global teams, right, 24 hours is something that you need to take into confidence.
Correct. So Aadil, I've been interacting also with a lot of your peers in the industry, and they call you an AI champion. You nailed it very well with all the use cases and the use of AI, data and technology in the space of marketing. Tell us, how do you do it? What are some of the use cases that you've been looking at or using it?
I think this is something that's very close to my heart. If you look at, I wonder how I used to do marketing like 6-8 months back, 10 months back, 12 months back, because our entire stacks of sorts has changed. So let's talk about the video examples that I was giving you, right? So if you want to, so there are 3 tools. I would recommend 3 or 4 tools from a AV and film production standpoint. I think marketers should clearly embrace. Right? The first one is called Runway. Runway ML Gen 3 Alpha is so good. It allows you to design full-blown movies at scale. And you can do that 10 seconds at a time. You can, Khushbu, pretty much describe, there is this kid who's in Africa, who's on old computer, on a wooden bench, on an old monitor, trying to learn code. There is a wild elephant in the background, and you see deers running because a cheetah is chasing them. You give this prompt, and you define certain motions and background elements and gradients and how you want it to be. This will generate as if it were lifelike. And therefore, when you are doing your events and you want to explain certain concepts, gone are the days where you brought in a film crew, an agency, who would say, I need to give you a real lifelike visual. It's going to take me 8 weeks because I'm going to go to shoot location.
Correct.
I'm going to shoot it. And then I'm going to try and figure out if this will work or not. Here, in probably an hour of experiments, you have 3 or 4 scenes and you decide which one you want. And then you double down and you create a minute or a minute and a half movie that you want to convey messaging for. Now, earlier, it would cost you like thousands of dollars and an agency and multiple back and forths and communication gaps. You need one guy to do this today. You need one Gen Z person.
True.
24, 25 years of age.
Yeah.
Who's passionate about using AI. Who's crazy about film production.
Right.
Understands YouTube. Understands how Insta algos work.
Yeah.
And knows how to create stories that resonate with hearts.
Yeah.
If you're able to get that person, I'd say if you have a budget of $200 a month, this can do unbelievable stuff for you just with Runway. And then there's another tool that you can look at, and there are 2 tools I'll give you actually. There is Synthesia, there is HeyGen, where you can bring your own AI avatar to life. Like, I'm talking to Khushbu right now, and you were talking to me about how you plan to create reels and shorts about your podcast conversations. Now think about it. If you want to create a summary of what someone said, what if you just write and copy paste the text and your avatar in these precise clothes does it on screen without you recording anything? That is what HeyGen and Synthesia can do for you. All it requires is training data. So if you have your YouTube videos of where you've spoken before, and if you record 2-3 minutes of video based on instructions that it gives you, you upload that. It learns your expressions, it learns your body language, it learns your accent, and you can change your accent to a particular region if you like, right? And you can hyper-personalize. And the more you train the algo, it gets better. The same case, so you can do that. Another thing that you can do is there's a very cool tool called 11 Labs. Great for audio. So think about it, and this is just fun stuff I'm talking about, right? So let's say we're doing a hobby project. This is not for commercial or customers or anything, just having fun, right? I'm a huge fan of 2 icons in the industry. In India, I love the voice of Amitabh Bachchan.
Right.
I don't know, something about his voice. The other guy I really like in Bollywood is Nasiruddin Shah. There's something to do about their voice, the way they articulate and describe things. In the United States, Morgan Freeman. Like if you've seen Shawshank Redemption and the background score of that, the way he speaks and articulates, my God, right? With 11 Labs, you can have your narrative, but in these voices. In any voice you want. So you can import their audio samples. This will generate. You give your own custom text, and this will do it. And now the magic happens when you start deploying Runway ML, Synthesia, HeyGen, and this particular audio tool together, the magic happens. So the magic I feel in the GenAI world is not using one tool in isolation.
Correct.
But it's about really using an array of tools to, it's like the orchestra. You need the symphony of all these different instruments. I'll give you another example. The very, very cool tool, check it out when you get a chance. It's an app on your phone. It's called suno.ai. suno.ai.
Okay.
So you can go to suno.ai and you can say, it's Khushbu's birthday today. I'd love to wish her happy birthday. These are Khushbu's hobbies.
Yeah.
I've known Khushbu and give it some context about, how we are friends and all of that, and how we first met, what Khushbu likes doing today, all of that. It will generate an amazing audio track immediately, which is completely AI generated. Now, here's the thing. You can choose whether you want it to be jazz, whether you want it to be rock, whether you want it to be pop, whether you want it to be classical. And here's the sexy part. It does it in Hindi too.
Wow.
So if you want it, all the lyrics in Hindi, it'll help you create the lyrics. You can take those lyrics, it won't be perfect, feed it into GPT, change those lyrics, bring it back to this guy, say, I've changed these, I want you to sing it. I want you to sing it in something like an Amit Trivedi's voice. Now, you can't say Amit Trivedi because copyright violation.
Right.
But you can give it examples of this kind of voice.
Yeah.
It'll sing in precisely that voice.
Wow.
So, and the first few songs are free. And if you like it, you buy a paid version. And that's okay. It's just a few dollars. So the point being, there are so many tools at your disposal today to build engagement. True. And if we use them to their potential, it's incredible what the world has to offer.
This is gold. This information is gold. Lovely. Wow. I want to create my own jingle for the mainstream.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Superb. Lovely. I think really good insights on how, we could really use AI. Any thoughts on, how, of course, I think with the whole array of all the AI tools that we blend together and create something, it always becomes your own personal touch, right? Because I think that's always a question that comes up, that, with so much of content everywhere on social media, with, so much of easy available graphic tools, AI tools and video tools, how do we really put out your own, your own thoughts and your own personalization to it? And I think once you combine all of this together, and it's just putting what you really want. That's the prompt that you give is your uniqueness.
Absolutely.
Right?
You said well. I think, Khushbu, the future is human plus AI.
Yeah.
Those who think you can just rely on agentic frameworks to do your job, please understand they don't have context to what you're trying to do. They don't have context into what your customer wants to hear. They don't have context into what will potentially resonate with your customer. So I think you use them to build the messaging, but you don't take the first output that they give you and run with it. You interact with it and you keep giving them constraints. You tell them that this is the ICP, this is the challenge, and you give it what ifs. What if this is not the customer's problem? What if the customer comes back with this? What if I argue with this? What if my competition comes back with this? And you keep giving it those constraints and keep refining it. That is when you will come out with a winner. Most people, what they do is they just take the first output and run. And then it's generated by AI, and obviously it's not going to get engagement.
Right.
Because, people can read, like people know how it speaks. And people know from me for years, in terms of my network, this is how he writes. Now, suddenly, if my English becomes impeccable and sounds like, the fanciest writer in the world, this is GPT. Or somebody else at work, right? The point is, be authentic, but use AI to augment your persona.
Right.
And to do stuff that was hard to imagine before. And I think that's the future. I think even at HackerRank, we always believe the future is human plus AI.
Plus AI, absolutely. Aadil, you've been hosting the Great Indian Marketing Show. And I've heard this. I think you started this in 2021?
Yeah.
I don't think Great Indian Kapil Sharma Show was there back then. So I'm sure it's come from that. Great Indian Kapil Sharma Show has been copied from this.
I have no idea. Please don't copyright or anything. We just thought it would be a fun name.
Yeah, but it's a good
name.
And
we said, let's just do something where, it's like two friends sitting and chatting like you and I are today. We said it'll be fun to, converse and put it out for the world to see. Sure. So it's been fun interacting with people I love and admire. And, the byproduct of that is you're building a community as well.
Absolutely. So you've interacted with a lot of CMOs across various organizations. What are some of the best practices that you've been hearing that you can share with our viewers, who are from the industry and are looking at getting at that roles? What are some of the top things that you would want to?
I think that there are so many that you learn, but I think more than the learnings, I think personalities stick and stay with you.
Sure.
And there are people that inspire you, and you're like, man, if I have a problem, I can go to that person tomorrow.
Yes.
Like, for example, I'll tell you, Casey from Airtel, he manages a $3 billion business for Airtel B2B. The way he's built the entire demand piece for them is unbelievable to see. If you look at the tech stack, if you look at his team, if you look at how he scaled the framework that was given to him a few years back, that's incredibly inspiring to see. And when you sit down with the man, he's super humble and he breaks things down to you as if you were a 4-year-old. So it's good to learn that from Casey. Now you come to my other friend, Udit, that you recently spoke to.
Yes.
Udit is a mad guy, Udit. I'm just saying. Like, I have never heard a CMO build a demand engine based on gross profits. He has the ability to build a demand engine that is GP first, gross profit first. Wow. And when I sit down with him and I understand the stuff that he's doing, I'm like, kahan se karte ho yaar ye sab? How do you do this? It's unbelievable. You think about Prawal, who's at Zoho. Right? Prawal is another league in himself. Again, the way he's built the brand of Zoho for the last 13 years, one step after the other.
What a journey.
It's been incredible. You think about Bala, who is now, a couple of years, Kyndryl spun off from IBM.
Right.
He had to take a brand new 18,000 organization ka brand and put it in the market and drive it to scale. Imagine the responsibility. He's amazingly humble and he talks to you about how he did it, right? Think about Tuhina. She's heading comms and marketing for IBM and she's doing it across APAC now. To have that sense, to speak about different products, to take different perspectives from different segments and be able to relate to everyone, it's amazing from Tuhina to hear.
Absolutely.
And then if you met Amit from People Strong, the guy is a beast in himself. Like Amit's creative energies and liberties know no bounds.
I know.
He's an idea machine.
Yeah.
He comes one machine from the other on the fly. And he makes it happen like magic.
Right.
So there are so many people, and what happens to that is I figured, like, tomorrow if I have a problem that I'm grappling with, where I'm not able to find a solution, luckily these people are a WhatsApp away. I can ping them, bro, can we chat? And then you, हाँ भाई क्या हो रहा है? That's the way they call you, right? It's so informal and it's so nice.
Right.
Like Casey will nonchalantly just pick up the phone and like, क्या हुआ बे? Sorry, I'm using the Hindi lingo, but that is Casey. And I love that about him. Udit he'll pick up and like, हाँ महाराज जी. So I'm just saying, like, to be able to, and these are not people I have met for decades. I have met these people, believe it or not, just about 18 months back. Wow. I've met these people 18 months back for the first time. All of these people that I said.
Wow.
But, you meet once and something hits off and it clicks. And then you know that you can connect with them, not just on a professional level, but on a individual level as well. Udit and me are big travel buffs.
Right.
So half the time we're sharing travel stories with each other and travel inspo ki agla kahan jana hai aur kya karna hai.
Right.
So so those are the reason for starting the podcast was also, just to get to know people at a more personal level and then vibe with them. So that, I can learn from them and perhaps I have stuff to offer to them too.
Lovely. Great conversation. Well, I really enjoyed and I have learned a lot myself. And I'm sure there are some solid key takeaways for all my viewers as well. I have one last segment. It's a little surprise segment. I'm just going to be doing a small rapid fire with you.
Oh.
So we'll do a small rapid fire.
Sounds good.
Whatever comes first in your mind is what you want to know.
Done.
AI in marketing, game changer or overhyped?
Game changer.
Superb. If you weren't a global marketing leader, what would you be doing?
Evangelist.
One book every marketer should read at least once.
The Art of the Start by Guy Kawasaki.
Okay. Most underrated marketing skill today.
Ability to get shit done.
Storytelling or data? You can only pick one.
Tough storytelling. Yeah.
Superb. I really enjoyed. I hope you did too. Thank you so much for joining me at the Mainstream and having all this lovely, candid conversation.
Oh, thank you. You're doing amazing stuff, Khushbu, at the Mainstream. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Wishing you all the best. I know you've got great plans for the Mainstream and you've got global ambitions. We're all here to support you. All the best.
Thank you so much.